Hey guys, Sam from West Meadow Rabbits here, and today I want to talk about rabbit care in the extreme cold weather. The U.S. right now, especially the northern half, is in another polar vortex, so temperatures will be getting down to the low single digits and colder for about a week or so here. We get these once or twice every winter, and while I do have a winter rabbit care video that covers kind of my standard practices, when we get these freak cold snaps, I do things a little differently, so I thought it would be cool to kind of cover it. Those of you who are observant will notice that we're still at the old location for the rabbitry down here. Pole barn build is taking a little longer than expected, but that will be finishing up soon, so I'll have a tour as soon as we get everybody moved in. And I will also have the West Meadow Rabbits cage plans coming out soon as well, so stay tuned for that. Apologize, it's been a super busy summer. But anyways, on to the video. So you'll notice right away that we're in my outdoor enclosure part of the rabbit barn, and basically the key detail of this enclosure is that you can see these metal roofing panels. Now in the summer I take those off, but those go up in the winter to prevent direct wind from getting onto the rabbits, and that's the first thing with extreme cold weather. Basically, ventilation is critical for meat rabbits. I would say half the issues you have in the winter with disease and poor health are from lack of light and lack of ventilation. So I always try to maximize passive airflow both above and below. A lot of people think this is a problem, but believe it or not, rabbits can take down well into the negatives as long as they're kept out of direct wind and kept dry. So ventilation is actually more important in that respect. Now, in extreme cold situations, though, I basically increase the amount of area that's covered. So right now, the south side of this building is exposed, but that's going to get covered up. The extra pieces of metal will go so that there's just a couple inch gaps on either side, and I'm really only going to leave this door open to let ambient light in. So that will go a long way to prevent any cold winds from getting in here and basically freezing the rabbits. Again, they can take the cold temperatures. They're just going to need more food, more water, and are going to use more energy trying to stay warm. And that brings up another important detail here, which is water. In the winter, these crocks freeze, as you would expect. I usually change them twice a day, which the rabbits quickly get into the routine of drinking most of the water they need in the morning and night, and that's exactly when they're fed too. So if you didn't know, rabbits primarily drink when they're eating. They don't usually drink regularly throughout the day. It's more when they're feeding. So since my rabbits are on ration and they get fed twice a day, they drink at that time, which makes changing the water easy. However, in extreme cold conditions, when we're talking single digits or negatives, that water will freeze too fast for them to drink in a lot of circumstances. So I will come out, about 20 minutes after I've fed them and rethaw and refill those crocks, and I'll do that in the morning too to make sure that they're getting plenty of opportunity to drink, because again, if a rabbit is eating, it can stay warm in this, even the most extreme cold weather. The final thing I do, which is very temporary here, is you'll probably have noticed all of these cages are stuffed with hay. Now, this is not something I do on a regular basis. I really only do it during these polar vortexes. This guy's completely hidden. Obviously, the rabbits enjoy it, but hay is pretty expensive, and this is fairly wasteful to do. But I put a bunch in, I fluff it up so they can burrow down into it. In this case, I usually save bad hay. Every once in a while, you'll get a bad hay bale, or the rabbits won't eat it fast enough and it goes kind of stale. Rather than composting that, I'll put it aside for a situation like this, so they can basically go in here, burrow down, and this is more than adequate. Again, these rabbits, assuming they're kept out of the wind and have food, can take negatives without this hay. I just think it's a nice touch. I've had rabbits have no issues down to -8 in just these metal cages. But obviously, adding the hay makes it a lot easier for them. When it's fluffed up like this, they can burrow down into it, and it acts as like an insulator. Again, the rabbits have developed a very thick winter coat. In nature, they're built to handle these kind of temperatures. But it's just a nice thing to do. They enjoy burrowing in it. Even though it's kind of stale, they'll munch on it. And it's a nice kind of enrichment activity to just get them through the polar vortexes, which quite frankly suck for everybody. So why not make it a little easier? If you're going to go this route, though, just bear in mind that this hay is going to get all compacted pretty quickly. So you'll have to refluff it, when you're going to feed. Also, I try to avoid putting it in their areas that they're using primarily for a litter box, which is, I guess can't see there because I just cleaned it out. But you'll see a corner of the cage they usually use as a litter box. But I try to avoid putting it there. That being said, depending on how aggressive your rabbit is, they'll move it, they'll flatten it out, they'll make a big mess of it. And this is, again, just something that's going to happen once or twice a year for maybe a week or two during the couple polar vortexes that we get. And it's just a way to keep them a little more warm, comfortable, and happy in a bad time. So basically, the rules for extreme cold are pretty similar to those for regular winter care, just turned up a notch. This is also a good opportunity if you're using a hide box. You can stuff that full of hay. We're transitioning to hide boxes with the new rabbitry, so I'll be doing videos on those. The other thing to keep in mind, though, is moisture is the enemy. If this hay gets wet, it can actually have the exact opposite effect that we want. So rather than being a warm, cozy place for the rabbits to hide, it can become a wet mess that causes their fur to get wet and pulls heat out of their body. And that's really the key detail here, is that you got to understand rabbit fur works because it's fluffy. That fluff and those multiple layers actually trap air, which is what is insulating the rabbit. When the fur gets wet, it gets flattened out and it clings to the rabbit's skin and basically has no insulating value, and the moisture itself will also pull heat away from the animal. So if you can't keep this hay dry and clean, then it's actually better not to do it at all. So I will be, as I said, coming in here daily, fluffing this hay up, pulling out some of the bad hay, and at the end of the week, when this polar vortex is past, most of this hay is going to come out, because if you use hay or straw as bedding like this and you leave it in there, it's going to get very nasty very quick. My preferred bedding method for rabbits, if you're actually looking to have bedding in a hide box, a nest box, or if you're doing bedding in your cages, would be pine shavings, because they're much easier to keep clean. They're much more absorbent. They have a higher carbon ratio, so they don't start to rot as quickly. And you can kind of do the deep litter method with pine shavings, which is keep piling it up, and it'll keep the rabbits happy. So just thought I'd share this little tip with you, since we're all going through the cold weather. I apologize for not making as many videos as I wanted this summer. We've been very busy at the new homestead, setting up infrastructure, building a massive pole barn, which has taken a lot more time when it's just me and one or two volunteers a weekend. But it's all finishing up pretty soon here, so I will be sharing that once that gets going. Otherwise, guys, thanks for your patience. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave a comment below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Thanks.